You know what?
Oh.
Hey, DeMar! You want some fun? Oh! DeMar DeRozan walked in to Golden One Center tonight. This wasn't a typical Summer League game. He walked through the tunnel, and people, all upon their feet, fired up. DeMar DeRozan! Woo! Let's go.
What's up with the blowing it out?
I don't know. The Kings didn't just make a move today. They didn't just like dip their toes in the water in free agency. That was a cannonball. Splash! The Sacramento Kings land the biggest free agent that they've ever landed in Kings history. A 6-time All-Star, a 3-time All-NBA talent, just a certified bucket. The Kings have landed DeMar DeRozan in a 3-team sign-and trade, with DeRozan coming to Sacramento and agreeing to terms on a 3-year, $74 million deal. Harrison Barnes, after 6 years in Sacramento, he is headed to join Greg Popovich, Victor Wembanyama, Chris Paul, and the San Antonio Spurs. They also get an unprotected pick swap in 2031. Will the world be here in 2031? We'll find out.
Yeah.
And then Chris Duarte, salute him. His 1 season with the Kings, he has been traded to the Chicago Bulls. A lot to break down. The Kings just landed a 6-time All-Star to go with De'Aaron Fox, to go with Domantas Sabonis and Keegan Murray. They re-signed Malik Monk at a press conference today and was beyond thrilled to stay in Sacramento. And he knew for a while he was staying in Sacramento. There was no doubt in his mind he was staying in Sacramento. Is he ready to come off the bench, start? He said, I'm cool with whatever. I want to start. There's so much to go over tonight. Oh, and we had the California Classic Summer League. Why did we bury the lead, Morgan Reagan?
You did.
DeMar DeRozan. Oh, we get an alert. Woj says it's happening. And what do you know? DeMar DeRozan comes out of the tunnel with Not Like Us going off in the background, getting one of the most epic ovations in Golden One Center history at a Summer League game.
Yeah.
Morgan Reagan, how are you, my friend?
Well, I'm doing great. It was a different energy there, especially when everyone knew DeMar DeRozan was in the building and still wasn't finalizing. And it's like still in the process of finalizing whatever. But then when you saw the Kings are finalizing, and then you see all the photoshops of DeMar DeRozan in a Kings jersey, and it's like, holy shit, this is real. And then the crowd popping when he did come out. There's nothing like Summer League, or there's nothing like basketball in Sacramento. It's a Summer League game, and you're getting that type of energy in the gym. And because everyone knows what's going on. Everyone knows about DeMar DeRozan and this entire process. So, yeah, it was really cool to see it finally get to this stage.
The news came out during the end of the first game. It was Hornets Spurs. I was on the call and I saw it pop up on my phone, and I heard people in the crowd see their phones and start making some noise. I'm like, oh man, it's spreading. And then he comes out like, this was magical tonight. This was magical that DeMar DeRozan was here, agrees to the deal, and then comes out to get an ovation from Kings fans. And look, man, DeMar DeRozan's been in the league a long time. I'm sure he's very aware of Sacramento fans, but it's different when you experience and you're getting showered with love. He walks out on a July 6th and looking around, seeing most of the lower bowl full for Summer League basketball.
Yes.
That's just got to fire him up.
I must say, didn't you have a tweet before anything was even out there? And it was about some of your stupid wrestling things, and you're like, how cool would that be?
I said, here's what I said, because last night, Damian Barling and others started to really dig in and say, there's some news. There's something going on with tomorrow. And I was like, oh, it'd be just epic. It'd be a totally wrestling move tomorrow night, is if there was like lights go out before tip-off, pyro, Not Like Us comes on, and then DeMar DeRozan comes out with Malik and De'Aaron Fox. And it was, that's kind of funny. It didn't happen exactly like that, but it kind of did.
And like the premise of it, and the fact that that was kind of the timeline, that everything went down. I know you wanted it theatrical like that. I know you didn't get your pyro or your fireworks, but you got your song.
It was dope.
And you got DeMar DeRozan to obviously get closer and closer to finalizing a deal with Sacramento.
So let's talk about how we got here, right?
Yes.
Because there have been so many rumors about the Sacramento Kings, and it felt like, you know, as free agency got started, the only move you heard at the start of free agency was Alex Len. Malik Monk, his agreement came, a week before that. But everyone's expecting, what are the Kings going to do? What are the Kings going to do? They're in the Ingram. They're in the marketing. What kind of move are they going to make? And it was Alex Len, and fans were getting irritated. Fans were like, what's Monty cooking? Oh, does he know how to cook? He's burning stuff. He doesn't even know how to cook.
Kind of funny.
Monty, you haven't made a trade in 2 years. What the hell? You know, he was getting crushed.
Roasted.
Hey, vest boy, what you going to do? Hey, take off your vest. You're like, we're going to burn vests. I hate vests. And then tonight, Monty comes out of the tunnel and is like, Monty. The patience pays off. But it's interesting thinking about how we got here because, it's July 6th. Free agency started June 30th. Not a lot going on. Okay. Mark Spears the other day on NBA Today in a spin the wheel segment.
Yeah.
Malika sets him up. Hey, what's your ball prediction or something? He goes, I got to tell you, DeMar DeRozan, dark horse Sacramento, look out. They're going to make moves. I was like, it's a spin the wheel segment. And I text Mark. I'm like, really? He goes, dark horse. I'm telling you. I'm like, okay, we'll see. And we've heard the Kings tied to so many guys. Yeah. Siakam, OG.
So many. And we always hear the almost, and then it ends up being a blah, blah, blah.
So then, kind of, dissipates, and then there's a little more noise. Yeah. Right? Then Damian's digging. Damian's everywhere. And then more and more people last night, it seemed like everyone in Sacramento who reports on the Kings was like, hey, there's some smoke here. This is real. But I feel like everybody in the back of their heads, and I know I talked to you about this, was like, yeah, but is he going to get on the plane tomorrow? Is he going to actually come here? Is he going to say yes? You were like, if he doesn't, we got to wait.
That's what I said. And what the Clippers were involved too, right?
The Clippers. It was like, is this a leverage play? What? You just feel like it's going to be the worst thing ever.
Correct.
If it's involving the Sacramento Kings. You haven't been able to land a big fish before.
Yep.
And so now they land that guy. It's very surreal that it happened this way. You hear this morning he's traveling to Sacramento. That was being reported. It's like, okay. Then we find out he lands in Sacramento this afternoon. And my whole thought was this. We're going to know no matter what tonight. It was going to be either he agrees, comes out, gets a pop like he did, or if he leaves and goes back to SoCal, if he's staying down there, that means it's probably not happening. That's bad.
He's
if he left without a deal.
Going home. That's what I was worried about.
Instead, he ends up getting this deal, accepting this deal. Apparently, the framework of this 3-team deal had been done. Mm-hmm. The only thing they needed was DeMar to go, you know what? I'm in. So here we are with DeMar DeRozan joining the Sacramento Kings. And there's so much talk, Morgan Reagan. He's 34. He turns 35. He's old. Tell me why you like this move. If you do, what do you think about this move? What do you think about DeMar DeRozan, Sacramento King?
So, a few things too, because I think if you had told me just about this move randomly in the middle of the season or something, I'd be like, but how does that improve the Kings defense? A point of emphasis, or what does that mean for the spacing? Then as time goes on and you see trades happening, the Western Conference getting better, you're seeing free agents getting paid in different places, and you're seeing the Kings still in this place where you go, they're connected to names, but what do they have to give up to get some of these names? And even you can go further. What do they have to mortgage in their future to get some of these names? Well, when DeMar DeRozan was being talked about, it never felt like it was going to cost too much, and it never felt risky. And when I say risky, well, for example, you look at someone like Zach LaVine, huge risk, paid a lot of money, and on top of all of that, is not on the floor often. DeMar DeRozan, we kind of knew the space of what he was going to make. And I think for so long, you look at the Kings and they always have to overpay free agents. They always have to overpay Oh, anything.
Yeah.
I mean, just anyone. It always seems
Oh,
like
I can go down the list if you want.
No,
Trevor
we're- no,
Ariza.
no. We're not going to go down the
Dwayne
list. No,
Dedman.
this depressing.
Corey
It's a
Joseph.
good day. It's a good day. So anyway, so you have all those things. The main thing that stood out to me, and this is one of my favorite things when I look at players. I look at their last 3 seasons and I go, how many games did they play? How many games did they play? And you had this fantastic stat of DeMar DeRozan and his ability to stay on the floor. He has played 93% of his career games.
Yes. He has played 93% of the games in his career. He led the NBA in minutes played last year. Second behind him was Domantas Sabonis.
Yep.
He plays every night.
Yep.
He stays on the floor.
Yep.
I think he has aged so well. I think his game is better than
Fine wine.
ever been.
Yep.
And you landed him on a 3-year, $74 million deal.
Yes.
The third year is a partial guarantee, but that is a fantastic deal for the Sacramento Kings.
So you look at that deal, and especially because of track record of the Sacramento Kings, this organization and everything, and you look at a player that is actually going to be available and out there. And why that is so important to me, because I've told you this so many times, I think for the Kings, they still have this roster where if you lose 2 of your main guys, your team, your identity is completely different. And it doesn't mean that the guys aren't good basketball players.
You saw it last year when they lost Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter.
Yes.
It impacted them in a major way offensively.
Even Kevin Huerter having the season he was having, so many people were like, oh, why are the Kings looking like this? It was because he was still a threat out there. He was still capable of doing so many other things, moving without the basketball, even when he wasn't making his threes. So for DeMar DeRozan to be out there all the time, a player that you can rely on and depend on, and on top of that, I told you this angle as well. JaVale McGee was vocal. He was a veteran. He was a voice. He was a leader, but he was on the bench. And it is so important to have that veteran leadership voice, whatever, out there leading by example. And DeMar DeRozan can do exactly that.
We're going to spend a lot of time talking about DeMar DeRozan, his fit, why this can be a really good move, maybe some concerns with the roster, looking ahead a little bit to what the Kings have left in terms of cap space and or money and what they could do before hitting the tax, all those things. Before we go there, I want to acknowledge Harrison Barnes for a second.
Yes.
So this is a 3-team deal for those who are watching us live. They're just checking in, and you're just like, oh, what happened? I just woke up. I don't know. My schedule's weird. Why would I be waking up at 10:35?
Yeah,
anyway, so DeRozan comes to Sacramento. It's a 3-team sign and trade. So DeMar DeRozan to Sacramento on a 3-year, $74 million deal. They get San Antonio involved. San Antonio cleared some space today. They were able to take on Harrison Barnes' contract. In addition, an interesting wrinkle that some people have brought up already, the Kings agreed to an unprotected pick swap, a first-round pick swap in 2031. So in 7 years.
Correct.
And I've already heard people talk about that. We can focus on that in a second. And then Chris Duarte, 2 second-round picks and cash go to the Chicago Bulls to get this deal done. Going back to Harrison, this guy played just under 400 games with the Sacramento Kings over 6 seasons. Talk about a guy that was available.
Yep.
All 82. This guy played every single night. I don't think he got the love he deserved for many things, but what he meant in the locker room. And I thought if you lost Harrison Barnes and you weren't getting a voice back, that was going to be really bad for this team. They got one back in DeRozan. But to focus on HB, the ultimate class act. And even if you were one of those fans who are like, I'm just sick of him, and oh, he pissing me, blah, blah, blah. The guy was available every night. He came to Sacramento, knocked down threes, super consistent, great guy. Amazing in the community, great in the locker room. That guy is forever welcome in Sacramento. Good King, Harrison Barnes.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think the amount of blame and shit that he would take when things were bad.
Yep.
And again, people would also go to his contract and be like, well, he's making this. And if you want to bring him off the bench, then he's making too much money to come off the bench. things get screwed up in the NBA everywhere. I mean, sometimes you're going to have guys that you switch roles and then you're going to have them coming off the bench and it could seem like they're getting paid too much, whatever it may be. Also, you look at how much guys are getting paid in the NBA, and I always remember feeling like, well, this is an okay deal. And the reason why I know so many people are going to get pissed off because so many people did not. I know I don't give a shit. But my point is, because I remember at the time, there was so much almost trades or almost free agents that were happening, and you needed a wing. So when the Kings or Monty went back and was like, okay, we're going to re-sign Harrison Barnes and this is going to be the deal, it wasn't until the next year when he wasn't playing the way that everyone wanted him to play that it seemed like everyone was so pissed off. But the year before, the guy helped this team get to the playoffs and play 82 NBA games, you know? So like he earned that contract and then didn't play up to it. But my whole point to all of this is like that happens all the time. And I just think he took way too much shit for being such a good guy as well. And I know it's not a league where everyone just judges you on being a great guy. They want you to perform on the basketball floor. That's what you get paid for. I get it. But at the end of the day, he was a great guy who showed up to work. And I thought, just throughout the years, really just held his head up high, especially with all the shit that Sacramento had gone through.
I think he's been in trade rumors almost every single year since he's been in Sacramento, even after re-signing the first time, then the second time. Like, he got re-signed, it was like immediately in the trade rumors. And that's not an easy thing for a player to go through. And now he's headed back to Texas. You know, of course, he had that stint with the Dallas Mavericks before Sacramento. And now he's headed to the San Antonio Spurs. I think that's a great pickup for San Antonio, a team that they're going to take their big swing as an organization next year. And this year is still about growing. This year is about guiding some of the young talent. We saw Stephon Castle today playing the Summer League. The guy's got a lot of talent.
Yes, he does.
But now they've got some vets who have been around. Chris Paul, been around. Harrison Barnes. Having those type of guys that know how to play the right way, that are selfless leaders, that's going to be beyond valuable for the San Antonio Spurs. And, of course, they get the pick swap. We can talk about that. But my whole point is, Harrison Barnes, like...
Hats off to you.
Yeah. 6 years in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And so, good for him. And I think he's going to enjoy playing with one of the most special players we've seen in a long time, in Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, which is cool for him, too. And really quick, too, on Chris Duarte. Obviously, not the longest time here or anything. And I think the risk and the thought process there was, you know, he played so well his rookie year with Domas Sabonis in Indiana. They're friends. They know each other. Maybe that could happen here. It didn't work out the way that obviously everyone wanted it to. But again, another great guy. His smile, just the biggest, and just would light up an entire room. And glad, you know, that he got to at least have a little bit more time with Domas, but also glad that he's going to go somewhere that maybe he'll have a little bit more opportunity as well.
It's tough. It's been a tough journey, man. I mean, he had a good rookie year, got hurt, gets traded. You know, this year, like, thinking he's going to maybe get more of an opportunity. He was definitely inconsistent. Just, you know, he had missed so much time the year before. It felt like the game was too fast for him. But like Morgan said, legitimately such a good dude. And I know that can't be easy. You know, he's right now like he was trying to make the Olympics, you know, taking his country to the Olympics. And, you know, he finds out on the road that, you know, he's getting traded. Not easy. And he's getting traded for the second consecutive year. So, you know, that's part of the business, but we wish Chris Duarte the best. Just want to give those guys like the proper respect. Because I think we're, but like seeing these guys and knowing what they're about, like, good dudes. So.
Yeah. And whether you say it's part of the job or not and you get paid lots of money, absolutely. But you can still humanize the things and feel for people when they have to go through change.
Now let's talk about DeMar DeRozan.
Hell yeah.
It's a big time pickup, man.
It's a big
time pickup. We talked a little bit about him in a clip we did yesterday when there was like, rumors like maybe the Kings are the front runner or what would you call them, the team to watch when it came to DeRozan. Team to watch. So we did a clip about him and I'm like, get this guy. We talk about his availability. Played 93% of the games in his career. Led the NBA in minutes last year. This guy wants to play, and he wants to play all the time. I think the Kings last year, what you noticed, everyone talks about like defense. You got to get better defensively. They did improve last year defensively, especially when Keon was playing more of a role. Fox was better. Keegan. But like sometimes offensively, it definitely wasn't as smooth as first year of the Beam team.
No, it wasn't.
When they ended the playoffs. It was not. They were not the number one offense last year. And at times you're like, okay, it's a little clunky. Having another guy that can go out and get you a bucket, a guy who can get to the free throw line, he's going to pump fake you to death, and you're going to bite on that eventually, and he could get there almost 8 times a game and knock down his free throws. Probably the best mid-range guy in the league, just a mid-range king. I love what he can do for Sacramento. Why do you think his offense will be so important to this team?
You look at the Kings offense, and one of the point of emphasis all the time, paint touches. I mean, as it should be with just like fundamental offenses, but they always put it down. They write it down. They want to get that paint touch. He not only has the skill set to get into the paint, he has the ability to score in the paint, to be efficient in the paint, to draw attention to the paint. What does that do? Could that leave Keegan Murray open for a spray 3? You know, there's options there. Could that mean that there's just more attention on this guy, which allows other guys to move without the basketball? De'Aaron Fox to use the speed, cut, move. Somebody finds him. DeMar DeRozan, whatever happens. I just feel like the flow of the offense is going to look better. Now, I think the concern could be too for some would be like, well, what about the spacing? What does that mean for the spacing? Because it's not like he is this huge 3-point shooter. Well, last year though,
he did take the second most threes of his career last year. I think that was more of a product of Billy Donovan going, Zach LaVine's out. All right, Patrick Williams. Hey, DeMar, gonna need you to take some threes.
And he knocked them down when the Bulls took on the Sacramento Kings.
He definitely did. Not a great 3-point shooter at all, but he doesn't take a ton. People talk about the spacing with that. Look, yes, here's the reality though. If DeMar DeRozan gets the ball above the 3-point line, you still have to guard the guy. You're gonna let him get downhill, hit the brakes, pump fake you, get great footwork, and get around you and get to the basket. You're going to let him get to his mid-range spot. You're going to let him put a move on you. This guy still has to be guarded. I think sometimes we talk about spacing and act like, well, if he's not a 37% 3-point shooter, then they're just going to sag off of him. No, this guy scores at a high level without taking threes. It's kind of an old school game. He is connected with it. His dad used to make him watch 80s basketball. He idolized Kobe Bryant. The guy has looked at the mid-range and is like, I'm going to be a mid-range specialist because I can get there. And go ahead and try to stop him. The guy has averaged 20 or more points per game in 11 straight seasons.
Like, think about that. And think about even where he is in his career and still doing that and doing that at such an efficient level as well. And so, I just think.
And I think his game's going to age well. I really do. I mean, he's going to be 35, but he is in elite shape. The guy takes care of his body. He takes care of upstairs too, the mental part as well.
And here's the thing. As some guys get older, they also have to rely on still being explosive, getting to the rim, whatever. I think because, like we've talked about, he's done such a fantastic job of becoming such an elite mid-range shooter, right? And that's elevating over people. That's being able to get to a spot, and it doesn't matter if it hands in his face because the muscle memory will be there. So even if there is still a body on him,
he can create.
He knows how to create just enough space too to get there. So again, his offensive game alone, I think when we look at that and just what this means for the Kings offense to have another guy that they could rely on. And let's just say he's having a bad night. Okay, no worries. You have other guys that can still get something going. And that is something that the Kings were absolutely missing.
He also, like people, he dribbles the hell out of the ball. I think he is more than capable of playing in an up-tempo offense where the ball gets moving around. He showed that ability in San Antonio. And people are like, oh, he doesn't really pass. And it's like, oh, no, wait. Look at his assist numbers in San Antonio. He averaged over 5 assists a game last year. He handled the ball a lot. Sure. I think he is going to fit perfectly. he's a smart player. He
Yeah.
understands the game. Sure, he can get to his spots, but he also understands the importance of just getting that paint touch and getting the ball popping around. When the ball has energy, everybody loves that. He has played in a system like that before.
Well, and you talk about these different systems of basketball that he's played in and him being able to adapt, not only because he is a smart player, but he's so fundamentally sound. And that goes to even him in his pump fake. And I know you mentioned that because he was on Paul George's podcast talking about his shot fake that he has and how he likes to use it and how teams still fall for it to this day, because it's not about like, they know he's going to do it, but he's done such a great job executing even something as simple as that. And Paul George then started talking about, I don't pump fake because it just doesn't come naturally to me. He's like, it's so weird. It's so weird. And it's such an old school thing that I just love that he has down that is still so effective in today's game.
Very creative with that. And he was, Paul George was sharing a story too about how when they played DeMar DeRozan's team in the playoffs, Paul George's coaches said, we will fine any player who goes for the pump fake. And there are a lot of fines being handed out because of that. DeMar DeRozan is a professional scorer. And I think last year, especially when Malik Monk went out, I'm looking around going, who is creating for the Kings besides De'Aaron Fox? It was all De'Aaron.
Yeah.
He needed some help, right? Keegan's not there yet as a creator. So that's not Sabonis's game. Keon Ellis, come on, this guy was in his second year in the NBA. You're looking up and down going, you need some help. And now the fact that they add Malik Monk, who returns, he had his press conference today. It was really fun to hear what he had to say about returning to Sacramento. So you have him, you've got Fox, you've got DeMar. These guys in clutch time know how to perform. De'Aaron Fox has won the Clutch Player of the Year award. Well, that year, DeMar DeRozan was in third place in that running. This past year when Steph won it, who was in second place? DeMar DeRozan. The guy is not afraid of the moment. And to have that many threats on a team, that guys that aren't afraid of that can take the big shot, that can draw the big foul, and then go to the free throw line and knock down free throws. This is a big addition. I also think it's going to make the Kings offense more dynamic. They've run so much dribble handoff stuff on the perimeter. Well, now you can run some dribble handoff game with DeMar DeRozan. Get him going downhill and attacking. It's going to be significant for the Sacramento Kings.
Even on a team that he was on last year, I mean, he was averaging over 5 assists per game. Yeah. And you think about that. I mean, obviously, these guys have to make these shots that he's getting them. But I think just him as a manager, as a leader out there as well in different situations, not just to get a bucket, but to make sure to create something that obviously makes sense for the entire team. What?
We do have some breaking Kings news. I've been waiting for a few minutes. I want to get through the DeMar DeRozan stuff. According to our good friend Sean Cunningham, the Sacramento Kings may not be done working for the night. He says he's hearing strong indications they've reached a deal with Jordan McLaughlin, who was with Minnesota last year for the team's 13th roster spot. The 28-year-old point guard, of course, played with Minnesota last year. Playing the backup, spot starter sometime, third guy. You need another point guard who is capable. This guy is capable. How many games did he play with Minnesota last year?
He played 56 games last year. He's 27 years old.
We've definitely called some of his G League games back in the day, too.
I wanted to find his wingspan because I feel like he was pretty long. Interesting. Good job, Sean. Way to bring that up.
So it's good. You want to have another guy that in a pinch, you can go out there and handle a little bit, and he can definitely do that. So the Kings, I believe, God, after these trades, they've got some roster spots open. And yes, Woj just reported Sean Cunningham was first, but free agent guard Jordan McLaughlin has agreed to a 1-year deal with the Sacramento Kings. So there is that for the Sacramento Kings.
Okay,
My goodness. Also, if you guys want to just have a little fun, and we're going to talk more DeMar DeRozan. So DeMar DeRozan's favorite number is 10. He wore 10 in Toronto, could not wear 10 in Chicago because it was retired. Sabonis changes his number to from 10 to 11 this year. His dad wore 11. 11 was retired. Bob Davies' family said, you can take it. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. So Sabonis goes to 11. That means 10 is open. Our good pal Mike Bibby was like, they should retire it. Well, they're not going to be retiring it. DeMar DeRozan will get number 10 back.
That's awesome. I know you kind of thought maybe it was a conspiracy too, because the way that it did play out is pretty interesting.
It was some 4D chess by Sabonis and the Kings. Like, dude, first things first, dude. One little thing we could do is just like change your number. Don't you like your dad's 11? You used to wear 11 in Indiana. Like, let's get you 11 back. We'll get permission. Then DeMar can get 10. DeMar likes 10. Let's get him 10.
Get him 10.
Yeah.
I love to see it. No, it's again, also great too, just to see that the Kings are still putting in the work, even if these are the little tweaks that are coming here and there, because I think that is very important for this roster to keep seeing changes, and not just to see changes to make anyone happy, but you're just seeing the Western Conference getting better and better. You have to make sure that you have the depth, the right backup pieces, everything that you need going forward.
Yeah, and there's still time to add some more pieces. They can add some guys to vet minimums if they want to avoid the tax. There's definitely some flexibility for Sacramento to make more moves. Hell, they can make another trade if they wanted to as well. I just think this DeMar DeRozan deal is so significant for many reasons. One, the thing that we haven't hit on yet, we talked about what he can just bring offensively, go get a bucket, blah, blah, blah. The Kings got a big free agent. DeMar DeRozan had suitors. The other suitors they had to get creative too to try to make it happen. You know, at one point the Lakers wanted him. At one point the Clippers, Miami had been tied to him. The problem is those guys were in some tough cap situations, so they had to be really flexible. Or DeMar would have to take a pay cut. DeMar, this is a reasonable deal. 3 years and 74 for a guy with his resume who is not like, oh, he's coming off an injury, or, oh, man, you know, he hasn't been the same. This is not the Kings signing Vince Carter and giving him $8 million a year. This is not the Kings signing Zach Randolph at the end of his career. Shout out Zebo. Love the guy, but like he was at the tail end. DeMar DeRozan, it's like a fine wine. The guy has aged well.
Yeah.
And I just...
Still impactful.
But my point is... The Kings were able to do this.
Yeah.
The Kings. This is a shift. This is a shift that they have finally started to turn a little bit where they're not the laughingstock of the NBA.
Track record, I think when you look at track record, and that's why everyone is so triggered and traumatized. And I just think that's sports fan bases, I guess, that just are so irrational at times and get so dramatic with certain things. And it's like, nothing's going to happen, like a tantrum of a 5-year-old or something. Because I feel like I saw a lot of that online. And I love it because I just think it's funny. Like, I think it's hilarious because it just doesn't make any sense to me, right? And I also understand, though, being in Sacramento, why it can be triggering, because this fan base has been traumatized for so long.
They've seen a lot of shit.
And I think even in the last couple of years with this front office, even seeing the almost trades and the players almost come here, but then it never really truly gets done. It never really felt like it was turning the corner. Well, just from Malik Monk signing here in free agency, like
before it started.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's an underrated element of this whole story because it allowed them to work on this DeMar DeRozan thing. If they had to deal with Malik at the start of free agency.
Oh my God. That would have been awful.
So Malik did them a favor.
He did them. He's the reason why DeMar DeRozan's here. I mean, honestly,
it helped though. But it literally helped.
So when Malik made that decision though, I remember even in that moment, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like he really, he loves Sacramento like I love Sacramento.
Dude,
it made me so
real.
happy and special. And then you're seeing DeMar DeRozan, who, by the way, I know the talks with the Clippers. I don't know. We obviously don't know the details of that. But I think being in California was also important. But then obviously everyone that he did have conversations with, he felt comfortable with. And you mentioned the contract. It's not like they paid him a shit ton of money that just didn't make sense for a 35-year-old to be here in Sacramento. Like it all feels oh so good. And you're exactly right. The Kings organization did this, and I'm really hoping that it actually shifts a lot of things on the floor for next year, even in the Western Conference, because I don't want to hear it again, from people being like, oh, everyone got excited about that, but it really wasn't the thing that they needed to do. And I mean, obviously that can always be the case, but I think right now it's important to celebrate exactly what you're saying, is that someone wanted to be here.
Yeah, apparently he met with Mike Brown, but Chris Haynes reported that the guy that was really big, De'Aaron Fox, those two got together, chatted about things, and that's what got DeMar DeRozan to go, all right, let's do this shit. Let's do this shit.
And that is also something you want to hear, that your star player could help in negotiations or help sway someone to actually be here and want to be here in Sacramento. Because I don't know, I never really saw De'Aaron as that, but I just think as he's grown and matured over the years and has become such a different player on and off the floor, it does make a lot more sense.
It's crazy to think that De'Aaron's the longest tenured King. I think Trey Lyles is the second longest. And maybe if you want to go with like Alex Len, who split time here before, but yeah, there's been a lot of because Harrison Barnes out after 6 years. There's been so much turnover.
Wow.
Yeah. But I just think it's such a significant day because Sacramento was able to do this. They were able to get this deal done. Like I'm stunned. And I've been following this team a long time. I'm more than aware of their free agent history. Before this, you go back. A lot of people don't mention this one. Brad Miller was a significant sign and trade acquisition they made, and that was actually, believe it or not, involving San Antonio in this one. And Indiana, they sent Scott Pollard out. They sent Hedo over to San Antonio. Was not a good fit there. Kings got Brad Miller, who was an all-star in the East, came with actually an all-star here too, and that was a significant move. But before that, it was like, Vlade, that was a huge free agent pickup at the time.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's pretty bleak. Now, they re-signed some of their guys after they traded. They re-signed Weber. They re-signed Bibby after trading. Get stuff like that. But, like, for them to attract someone, right? That's not like, oh, he's like 41. This is his farewell tour. Oh, okay. He's a vet. Like, he'll be a good voice. Like, this guy can still play. And you look at his Morgan talked about his last 3 years of availability, his availability over his whole career. Last year, the guy averaged 24 a game. The year before that, 24 and a half. The year before that, just under 28 a game. This guy is a bucket. He doesn't shoot threes. He's a bucket. He gets to the line. He's a mid-range assassin. Guy's a bucket. And you need another guy that can go create. Think about the pressure this will take off De'Aaron Fox at times, too. This allows Fox that he's not going to have to be the guy all the time. Think about the versatility that the Kings can have now. There's questions about the lineup going forward about, oh, where's DeRozan slot in? Is he at small forward? Is he at shooting guard? Look, it remains to be seen. I think we'll have a better idea in the next few weeks if they make some other moves or tweaks.
Yeah.
As it stands right now, it's like maybe you have him at the 3, you put Keon at the 2, Fox at the 1, obviously, Keegan at the 4. Are you worried about Keegan at the 4 defending some of the bigger guys? Can he stay out of foul trouble? Offensively, you can do it at the 4, and then you got Sabonis at the 5. But could the Kings make another move and upgrade the 4? Then all of a sudden, you're putting DeRozan at the 2. Then you've got like Monk and Ellis and Devin Carter and Lyles coming off your bench. It's intriguing. And I still think the Kings need to make some additional moves. Adding McLaughlin's nice as like an emergency point guard and all that. They still need some more size. You did lose some size with Harrison and even Sasha to a certain extent, right? So having some length, the Kings still need length on this team unless they're like, dude, Jalen McDaniels is going to be I can't bank on that.
No,
I can't bank on that.
No. And especially when he had one of his worst years
ever
in his NBA career last year. So yeah, you can't bank on that. You obviously get excited for length. I think it was the same thing when the move for Kessler Edwards was made. It was like, oh, what do we have here? What will he be capable of doing with his long arms? Because he's a taller guy, like whatever. Can he, shoot consistently from 3? And obviously that didn't go in the direction that you wanted to go when it came to his development here in Sacramento. But at the same time, you just got to keep trying out those things, and you don't want to keep having misses, and you don't want to have to keep relying on internal development. But what you're seeing here too is that the Kings are kind of turning the corner where maybe there are going to be more people believing in the system, Mike Brown, the teammates around them. I don't know. And just being on a team too that actually has some flexibility with things as well. You and I have also talked about this. The Kings, when you looked at some of the names that were out there, it never felt like they had the impactful assets to really make a move in like a trade, for example. Because we would always go, well, like, who would want this and this? Who would want this and this for that? Like, it's the same thing with like Lauri Markkanen. I think a lot of people are like, wait, so are the Kings out on Markkanen? And it's like, yeah, because pretty sure that someone like Keegan Murray was going to have to be in that deal. And the Kings are not parting ways with Keegan Murray.
And it sounds like Lowry's big on testing free agency next year, so that's like...
And so then you're taking that risk and
dealing with Ainge. Good luck.
All of those things combined. So yeah, I think I look at this situation and look at where the Kings are at and just keep on improving your roster, not having too many misses, even on some of the guys that play smaller roles as well, because you got to make sure you do have the right assets to eventually keep making tweaks and moves.
Yeah, and they still have some picks that they can move too if they were trying to do something a little larger or whatever, or try to close the deal. I do want to talk about the 2031 unprotected first-round pick swap that they sent to San Antonio today. And I've seen a couple people mention, like, dude, I don't know what that's going to look like. Look, I'm sorry. 2031. I'm not saying like I'm not saying we need to be blind. It was like, dude, ignore it, doesn't matter. Because yes, there is a world where the Spurs are the reigning defending NBA champions in 2031 because they've got the greatest player who's a 5-time MVP in Victor Wembanyama, and the Kings are like, dude, they're really bad, and they got the #1 pick, and they swap. Yeah, that would be really bad. That'd be really bad. It's also 2031, and I'm sorry, this is NBA history. What? Could Victor not be on the Spurs? There's 8,000 different questions I could bring up that it's like, I'm sorry, I cannot get worked up about an unprotected pick swap. Now, if you said unprotected pick, it's for sure going there. Okay, yeah, we can have that conversation. It's 2031. This world may not be around in 2031.
Like you say that, but it's like...
It's possible. So I just can't bring myself to care that much about it. Now, if we get there and it looks bad, yeah, that's going to suck and we'll have to just deal with those repercussions.
Yeah. But don't you have to take these risks too?
You do. Yeah,
like,
that's the thing.
That's the other thing that like when people are excited, but then they get mad. And I get it. I get there are certain situations where too much could be given up. But you're also seeing the climate of the NBA and how some of these deals are working and how so many people, so many teams feel like they're having to give up so many even second rounders just to get rid of some guys. Yeah. Or look at a deal like Mikal Bridges and all of the future draft picks that they got. You know what I mean? There's so many different situations. And I feel like especially where the NBA is going with some of these contracts and also with some of the different tiers of aprons and all that crap going on. I mean, just way too many rules that I can't even keep up with. It's like, yeah, take some risks, mortgage a little bit of the future if it means playing some good basketball now.
Another question that's been brought up, DeMar DeRozan defensively. I think there's just going to be some challenges for him on ball with certain matchups, no doubt about it. But he's actually a really good team defender. He's a smart guy because the guy knows the game. I think he averaged like not saying that steals make you a good defender.
No, De'Aaron led the league last year and wasn't on an all defensive team.
Sure. There's more to that, but he averages over a steal a game the last couple of years. For his career, he averages a steal a game. But I think he does enough things from a team defensive standpoint. And now, Fox should be freed up to continue to be aggressive defensively. He doesn't have to carry the entire offensive burden by pushing.
Yeah.
He's going to still push the pace. He's still going to have to do things, but he's going to be able to contribute defensively. Keegan grew a lot. Keon Ellis, you weren't even playing him at the start of last year. And then they're really high on Devin Carter. They believe he can guard 1 through 3. And if he can come in year 1 and do that, you have some versatility from the defensive standpoint.
And even when Malik was asked about Devin Carter today, he talked about him not only being a dog, but just being, because he was in college longer, believes his maturity, he will be NBA ready when he does have to come out there, that it will translate well. So, I think too, if you want to go to this situation, if you go and you look at someone like Harrison Barnes and what he wasn't capable of doing defensively as well, it's like, so you don't necessarily get that much better defensively, but you also get a skill set on the offensive end that you didn't have, right? So you still are like breaking news.
There's no perfect player out there. Yeah.
There is no perfect, unless Victor Wembanyama becomes the most perfect player, which that could happen. But there really isn't, for the most part.
I'm still just stunned that they got DeMar DeRozan. For those who checked out our clip yesterday, you probably heard some of this, but I'm going to pull a couple of these up because these are quotes that jumped out to me yesterday when I was doing some DeMar DeRozan digging, and Morgan's like, Deuce, you're gonna feel bad tomorrow. It's gonna hurt you when it doesn't happen. You're in. It's going to hurt. You were concerned.
I'm always concerned for you because for the most part, look, it's finally happening. But how many times have you been let down? And if nothing had happened after you've been so high on Brandon Ingram and DeMar DeRozan and name whoever the hell else, and on your birthday. That would have been so depressing.
And what a great birthday gift it was for
you
little
had a
Deucey,
great birthday. Tell us some.
Well, one thing before I get to the quote, I was talking to someone with the Spurs today, actually, before the game.
Oh, yeah?
And he was just raving about DeMar DeRozan.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, because it looked like it was headed that way. And he's like, this is going to be perfect for you guys. Oh. And he was talking about on the court.
Wow.
Yeah, he just liked the fit, just what it could make the Kings more dynamic. But as a leader, he is this guy. Everybody loves him.
Let's go.
Couple of notes. His first ever NBA head coach was Jay Triano in Toronto. So Jay is, of course, on the Kings coaching staff. Jay said years ago, I found this, that he knew DeRozan was going to be great because he was showing up at the gym at 6 a.m. as a young player. He just had that thirst to just be great. He also played with Trey Lyles. They played together in San Antonio, so those two know each other too.
Love it.
A couple of quotes. Greg Popovich, his former coach at San Antonio, said he was a great teammate. You could always depend on him. He was a go-to guy that you knew had the ability to score against most people, but he was always in a good mood, and he always had a smile on his face. He was fun to be around. Kobe White, his teammate in Chicago, says he never complains. He just loves the game. He loves to hoop. His old coach, Billy Donovan with the Bulls. That guy is one of the most special people I've ever been around, all the way around. Player, person, teammate. The ability to communicate with him every day who he is. I've never seen him have a bad day. I've never seen him in a bad mood. I've never seen him have an attitude. Certainly puts a lot into it. He does get frustrated like they all do, but he was a major part of keeping this group together. Vucevic, his big man in Chicago, said the way he cares about teammates, the belief he has in all of us. You all see when he takes over the fourth, when he makes big shots, when he makes big plays. That's something everybody sees. But for us, what's most important is just the way he is around us off the court. Even on the court, if somebody's struggling or whatever, he always has belief in guys and always supports them. That's very important, especially coming from your best player and your leader. It goes a long way, especially for younger guys. That's something that we appreciate the most about him, the way he carries himself off the court. He's a very simple guy, easygoing. He doesn't ask for anything special because he's the best player, because he has 15 years in the NBA. He's like everybody else. I think guys respect that most about him. Teammates all over the league, coaches. You cannot find someone who has played with DeMar DeRozan, who has coached him, been around him, that says a negative word about DeMar DeRozan.
That's cool.
This guy is an ultimate pro. He loves the game. His quote, Morgan, I love it. I want to play. I tell Billy all the time, don't take me out. I want to play. I want to be out there with the guys. I want to feel the challenge, especially when you realize I'm not going to play for another 15 years, another 10 years. So while I'm here, I'm going to give it everything I've got. I don't want to shortchange anybody, myself, my teammates, people who come to see me. I just want to be out there and play as much as I can, and I'm going to take care of myself as best as I can so I can do that.
He takes so much pride in what he does.
Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. They tell you what they know. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. The podcast